Hello and welcome to your roundup of the Dialog A Division Rugby League on ThePapare.com. We hope you caught all the action over the weekend, and if you didn't, here's a roundup for you. Even if you did, here's the roundup for you. Action getting back after election weekend, and this was the second weekend of the rugby that we had in the new year 2015, and lots of interesting developments over the course of the last couple of weeks. But Navy out in force, and that was our first match on the weekend. On Friday, we had Navy who hosted the Hambantara Sharks on Friday, and that was at Valisara, and it was an absolute thrashing by the Navy, and the Sharks didn't stand a chance. They conceded 19 tries, 15 of which were converted in the end by Reza Mubarak. The point to note, of course, Yoshida Rajapaksa didn't turn out for the Navy team on this occasion, but that didn't stop them. They may have been missing their captain, but they looked like they wanted to get a performance on the board nevertheless, and they did exactly that, because they know that they have to challenge Kandy at the top of the table. They know that they had to keep the pressure on Kandy, and they know that if they end up on level on points and they end up level on bonus points, then it's going to come down to points scored, tries scored, all those things. So that's why they really made sure that they smashed the Hambantara Sharks off the park. 19 tries, 15 conversions, 125 points to 7. We have seen 100 points scored before in this A Division League, but this was one of the bigger wins for any team. 125 points to 7. Really not much to say about that game, because it was just Navy all the way through. So that was the end of that, and the Hambantara Sharks will be licking their wounds and hoping to come back and salvage some pride next week. But Navy keeping the pressure on Kandy, who are the league leaders, and they played a match against Vavringa, a team that was travelling from Australia, and it was a lot was said that they were playing the actual New South Wales Waratahs, but that wasn't the case. They were actually playing the Warringah club, and that match went off pretty well for the Kandy lads. Fasil Marija getting on the scoreboard as well, and we haven't seen him scoring too many tries in this Dialog Rugby A Division League, but hopefully this new year will herald a lot more form from him, and the Hill Capital boys will be hoping that that will be the case. But let's get down to the big games that we had on the cards as well this weekend, and the first one was CRNFC playing Army at this Longdon Place ground, and they were hoping to continue the form that they showed in the first round and pick up a win against Army. Now this was an important match because it was the 4th place team playing the 5th place team, and that's why it was so important that CR hold on to that number 4 tag. But unfortunately for them, they were not able to do that, because Army came from behind to score a famous win here at CRNFC, and they avenged the loss that they faced at the racecourse grounds last time around. Pio Tua, you may remember, was injured in that last game. The big Fijian number 8 and 7 star. He was injured, and he was the one who was instrumental in that shock defeat that Army had against shock win that they had over Kandy. So he was the guy that they really missed, because he was injured in the first half, but somehow he came on in the second half this time around against the CRNFC and made a difference. He really managed to suck in a lot of defenders and make life difficult with Sanivilati Ramuai, who was running riot outside when he came on in the second half as well. But CRNFC and Army both chose to start with their second string, if I can use that phrase, of foreigners. They started with Joe Fuimai and Billy James Ropinga in the centres and the number 8 position, CRNFC, and then Navy also started with Samuela Sangaeva and Jone Avokiavota, the lesser named player of foreigners both teams started with. So that meant that the second half was always going to have something in it. So when CRNFC finished in the lead by 15 points to 13 at half time, they knew that was probably not going to be enough, and when they scored their points in the second half and went up to 18 points to 13, they also knew that was probably not going to be enough, and they needed to get more points on the board. But unfortunately for CR, they weren't able to convert all the pressure that they had into points. In the first half, they were running riot around the Army defence. They were really stretching the Army defence out wide, and Upul Aberatna and Vasanta Costa had to do a lot of work in that third row combination for Army to make sure that they kept CRNFC at bay, because Rojana Hettiarachi, Nalin Kumara and Anuradha Herat were really punching holes along with Kanchana Ramanayaka in the back, in the outside channels for the Army defence. But Billy James Ropinga profited from that as well, because the defence was drifting, and he managed to go over for a try just before half time after CRNFC had scored early on in the half as well. So unfortunately for Sia, they weren't able to maintain that momentum because I think the substitution of Rahul De Silva for Dylan Soiza slowed their attack down just a little bit. Ashan Di Costa likes to take the ball deep from the breakdown, and he likes to be able to swing those long passes out, and somehow when Dylan came on, he had to stand a little bit closer to the breakdown and a little bit less lateral to the breakdown, and that's what happened because Sia were not able to find the ball or get it out quickly enough to the outside backs to create the same sort of damage that they were doing in the first half. So that's why I think CRNFC may have made a tactical blunder and lost the game. Robbie Malnick also coming on quite late in the game and not enough time for him to do a lot, but Billy James Ropinga had an excellent game, probably the best game he's had so far in the red jersey. But coming on, Sunny Vilati Rambuai made a huge impact from the bench for the Army team, and Gayan Salinda was the man I thought who was excellent at the back for Army, fielding all the kicks that Rahul De Silva and Ashan Di Costa were thumping at him all day, and also making a few crucial tackles, joining the line and sending Kavindu Pereira over for the first score that they had as well. So I thought Army played an excellent game coming back. It was not really an exciting game of rugby. We didn't see a lot of run and pass rugby except from Sia in a few patches, but Army managed to grind out a win, and if their line-out had been a little bit better with Ramdika Alvis and Asoka Jalal combining a little bit better in their calling, then we might have seen Army run up a bigger score in that. But Army will be very happy. Rohit Rajapaksa turning out and actually playing for them, and they'll be happy with that as well. And they'll be very happy with that result because this puts them in fourth place, and that's something that they were gunning for from the early part of this season. The next game that we had was Havelocks taking on Police Sports Club, and Police have been giant killers. They beat Sia by 45 points to 20 odd in an encounter in the first round, and after that game I think a lot of people are expecting a lot of Apisai Nangaliva and Filimoni Seru and the rest of this Police team, but unfortunately they haven't been able to bring that same A game to the party ever since then, and they've flattered to deceive in a few of the games since against Army and now against Havelocks, and that was turned out to be a pretty easy win for the Havies by 21 points to 7. Unfortunately, a couple of yellow cards that Police conceded as well, and they played with 14 men on the park for the last 20 minutes of that game, and when you do that and you concede ill-disciplined yellow cards, then that's something that really will take the wind out of your sails. Nangaliva also playing most of that game at fly half. When he came in to the centre position and Devinder Prasad moved to the fly half position, the distribution was a little bit better, and then Nangaliva was able to attack, but I think that happened a little bit too late in the game for the Police team as well. Havelocks with that big forward pack still able to dominate at the breakdown. They've got a lot of experienced players in that forward pack, but their back line lacks a little bit of experience. But nevertheless, Viliami Tahitua had a very good game, as did Mapa Tuipolotu in the centre position. But what they really need is some leadership in the forwards from Josh Kaifa and Sione Taufe, who came on in the second half as well. From that number 8 position, they need to have a leader who really carries the ball forward well. Sudarshan Mudutantri does an excellent job in defence, but they need to have someone who gives them that go forward ball more often than not when in the close quarters. So that's something that Havelocks need to work on, and they kept the pressure on the top 2 teams, which are Navy and Kandy, and they will continue to do so in the weeks to come, because Havelocks have a young side. Dulaj Pereira showing some good kicking as well from the spot, and he put over a couple of penalties in that game. In fact, he put over 3 penalties for the Havelocks and some from long range, so that means that he's been working on that. Havelocks consistently improving, and I must say over the weekend in both games that I saw, which were the Police game and the Army game, the refereeing didn't really help. I know a lot of people have said the local referees really need to be come out of the wilderness and be able to have the same impact that the foreign referees did, but somehow it's no coincidence that sometimes when the foreign referees blow, we see much more of an entertainment aspect in the games, and we see more fast flowing, open, positive rugby, and that's what the local referees need to look at as well. I think they really need to look at encouraging positive rugby, and that means that they need to be at the breakdown quickly and make sure that they manage the game to keep the players on their feet and not allow all this flopping all over over the ball and creating unnecessary penalties. So that's an aspect of the game I think the SLRF you need to look at as well. Compare this weekend's games with the previous weekend's games and see whether there is an element of negative play creeping in when the foreign referees are in and the local referees are in, and what is the contrast between the two. And also I think the players have to make sure that they have an obligation to themselves and the fans to make sure that they keep playing positive rugby regardless of whoever referees the game and whatever they think they can get away with the local referees. So that's a look back at the action. CHNFC not in action this weekend. We are waiting for a confirmation as to whether they will be in action for the rest of the second round. Rumour has it that the Maitland Place Club will not be taking part in the second round of this Dialog Rugby A Division League, which is unfortunate because they're probably the oldest rugby playing club in Sri Lanka at the moment, and not having them in the league will be really unfortunate. But what to do? That's the story of financial resources not being available to everyone who needs them. So hopefully those players will not be left by the by. They will be able to join some other clubs and keep playing their trade, because there are a few talented players at the CHNFC club who will need to keep playing rugby and keep themselves available for the Carlton Sevens or whatever other Sevens tournament comes around, and also for the Sri Lanka team. So let's wait and see what happens there. Looking forward to the next couple of games. We have on Friday the Sharks taking on the Air Force, which will be a do-or-die battle for both teams, and Air Force have been in the ascendancy in the last couple of weeks. Police take on Kandy, and Kandy should be able to win that one at Police Park, but they always have a little bit of trouble travelling to Police Park, and nevertheless they should be able to win that. They should have enough of quality to win that game, with Chris Clutie hopefully coming back into the side. Then another big game on Saturday with Navy playing Army at Valisara. That should be a very interesting clash. And then we have a massive one on Sunday under lights as well at 6 p.m. We have Havelocks hosting CRNFC, trying to avenge their loss to the Red Shirts in the first round as well. So it should be an exciting weekend of action next week. Don't forget to tune into all the streaming action from ThePapare.com, and we'll bring you our roundup next week as well. Until then, have a good week.